Welcome to our series on the Mythological Schools of Thought, where we bring you the history of research into the ancient sources of the Teutonic mythos. Here we shall explore the evolution of mythic interpretation as it pertains to heathen belief, while demonstrating both the truths and the flaws within each school. We truly feel that by properly explaining the timeline of this research, we can help those of our faith to understand the necessity of moving beyond the academic lines and welcoming the true reconstruction of this belief. Our religion was subject to centuries of persecution, and as such, the documents that led to its revival originally ended up in the hands of those opposed to it. Once we recognize the flaws within their methods, we can begin to discern what can be of benefit to our community and what must be discarded. We are the Epic School of Mythological Research, built around the method originally developed by Victor Rydberg in the late 19th century. From the very beginning of our school, we have always viewed the stories as part of a religious structure. The gods are not symbols, they are not fantasies, and they are not deified humans. The Norroena Society has been working diligently for the past 25 years to develop Rydberg's method into a working body of sacred lore for our folk. This is our mission. This is our passion. This is our religion. Our journey begins long ago in the 5th century BC. Known as the father of history, Herodotus set out on a voyage to Egypt and thus wrote about the culture he discovered there. In his explanations of their deities, he made comparisons to the gods of his homeland, as if the Egyptians knew of them and recognized their identity as well. It is likely that this was not the case, but Herodotus explains it as so. The same deities receive in Egypt different forms of worship. The ceremonies of Isis and Osiris, who they say is none other than Bacchus, are alone unvaried. It is also interesting to note that he does the same thing with the Scythians, whom the Greeks were at war with, and this may have had an impact on how this method of understanding mythic relations would later be used. In the Scythian tongue, Vesta is called Tibiti, Jupiter, and as I think very proper, Pepeus, Tellus, Apia Otosiris, the celestial Venus, Artimpasa, and Neptune, Demamisatus. There has never been any evidence that this syncretic idealism was actually a view of any people other than the Greeks and Romans of the time. They were seeking to spread their empires and essentially began developing the idea of a cosmopolitan world similar to their multicultural cities. They believed that these were the height of civilization and that the world would benefit from them spreading their empires across the world. Later on, this school of thought would become known as the Interpretatio Graeca and would then evolve into the Interpretatio Romana. We see this begin to develop as an aspect of the Roman Empire when many Romans began worshiping Greek gods as their own, and indeed Augustus was the first known Roman emperor to adopt Apollo, a Greek god, as his patron deity. Another Roman historian, Cornelius Tacitus, would explain to us how important psychological warfare was needed when conquering a people. In order to keep them from revolting, they needed to have the people love their enslavement, and to do that they had to be convinced to love Roman culture, which would include embracing Roman deities as their own. In his Agricola, chapter 21, he wrote, "The following winter was spent on schemes of social betterment. Agricola had to deal with people living in isolation and ignorance and therefore prone to fight, and his object was to accustom them to a life of peace and quiet by the provision of amenities. He therefore gave private encouragement and official assistance to the building of temples, public squares, and good houses. He praised the energetic and scolded the slack, and competition for honor proved as effective as compulsion. Furthermore, he educated the sons of the chiefs in the liberal arts, and expressed a preference for British ability as compared with the trained skills of the Gauls. The result was that instead of loathing the Latin language, they became eager to speak it effectively. In the same way, our national dress came into favor, and the toga was everywhere to be seen. And so the population was gradually led into the demoralizing temptations of arcades, baths, and sumptuous banquets. The unsuspecting Britons spoke of such novelties as civilization, when in fact they were only a feature of their enslavement." It is Tacitus who first uses the term Interpretatio Romana in his Germania, referring to the German gods with their equivalents in the Roman pantheon. This equating of the native gods with those of the empire will prove significant as our journey continues. Much of our information on the Druids exists through Roman inscriptions of their native traditions, albeit filtered through the interpretatio method. At the same time, we can see the Roman view of these people and how their beliefs were viewed by Caesar himself, as we are told by Pliny in his Natural History. Magic certainly found a home in the two Gallic provinces, and that down to living memory, for the Principate of Tiberius Caesar did away with their Druids and this tribe of seers and medicine men. So we can see that the interpretatio method was used as a tool for subjugation and assimilation within these early empires. That is not to say that this was the sole purpose for its existence, but it does display a very deep bias against the people that were being conquered, and how it was used would set the stage for views on mythic systems for millennia to come. In each of these videos, we are going to demonstrate the three qualities of the schools represented. These will be their purpose. What was the school designed for and who was behind this design? This will help us to understand the motives and biases that exist within that particular school of thought. Their litmus test. What is the basis for their conclusions? Each school has a litmus test that it must follow in order to meet their purpose. Their results. What has been the result of their conclusions? How have their conclusions influenced the study of Teutonic mythology? Here is what we need to know about the Interpretatio School. Its purpose. To make comparisons with Greek and Roman deities for the purposes of relating those deities to the empires and assimilating various indigenous cultures conquered within them. The idea is presented to us by Roman historians seeking to validate the methods of their leaders. Its litmus. All deities must be compared to the Roman pantheon, and even the most frivolous comparisons create equivalency, ignoring the differences that often outweigh the similarities. Its results. This school set the stage for what would become the European view of Latin culture as the epitome of civilization, and the demonization of all indigenous cultures that existed prior to the Roman occupation. It would also open the door for our next school of thought that would come with Roman Christianization, that being the Euhemerist school. By further understanding the qualities of these schools, we will continue to unravel the many layers of confusion that have developed over the years within the study of the ancient sources of our people. The idea is to get you to question and seek the answers yourself, rather than tell people how to believe. We feel that as we move forward in this series, the viewer will take notice of the methods handed down and start to critically review the ideas that many feel are set in stone. For more information on the Norroena Society, visit our website, www.norroena.org, or follow us on Facebook, VK, or MeWe. If you are interested in joining us, you can email us at norroenasociety@gmail.com for a free PDF of our membership guide. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and keep up with the latest discoveries and discussions.